You're listening to Biz-Souls, the business podcast with an edge, hosted by me, Rona and Jeffrey Hansler. Tune in for perspectives and discoveries about the changing world of business. It's time to connect to the heart, soul, and humor of how business gets done.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Biz-Souls again. I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler, and we get to the heart and soul of business and the people that make it happen. And Rona reference to again is because I double tapped the audio recording, and so it wasn't recording.
We're having a great conversation, and he's like, "Oh, you have to do it again." I hit record twice.
Well, and it's going to be even better conversation. So what are we talking about, Rona?
We're talking about return to office and the mandate that Mr. Trump said to all the federal employees.
Well, that's not what we're talking about. That was what sparked the discussion about return to office for me, and
for you.
For me. And what we've done is put together 4 topics that are somewhat related, so they transition to each other.
Yes, I said they were cousins. They're all
they're all cousins. They're all cousins.
And so one will bleed into the other, and we'll be doing them each as a separate podcast.
Correct.
So that we don't bore you to death with something that's like 4 hours long. We're not going to be Joe Rogan.
We're going to keep things. Yeah, no. We're the antithesis of Joe Rogan.
I have a lot more hair than he does. So there you go.
Yes, you do have more hair than he does.
I think everybody has more hair than he does. Anyway, we digress. Okay. So
he likes his hair. I think he likes his bald head. Or his less head. So anyway. So return to office.
Yeah. So you had stats. So
read the
stats again.
I did some stats because what sparked this was the federal mandate, which is coming up on February. Today's the 2nd. It's going to be on the 6th. So we'll find out after the fact of this. So there are 2.28 million civilian workers in the federal government. Supposedly
2.25 million. Yeah.
Yeah, 2.25 million.
Ish.
And supposedly 54% of them work fully on site. And of those who are allowed to work remotely, 61% are those that can work remotely spend 61% of their time in the office. Well, that's different than what you're hearing on the news.
Right.
Everybody's talking about only 6%.
You mean they're spinning stuff? Oh my God, how surprising.
Well, and
everybody spends.
Yeah, the 6%, they're only spending 6% of their time in the office, was by Senator Joni Ernst. She was Department of Government Efficiency, and she was a caucus leader, and it was a kind of an ad hoc survey that they did.
Wait, she says that even though it says 61% going part of the time, she got the number 6%? I'm confused.
So the two are coming from different sources. So you've got competing information here, depending on, and it's partly driven by politics on this thing, I'm sure. Anyway, the idea though is that it doesn't matter what anybody's saying or how they're politicizing.
Right.
The United States is currently at $36.22 trillion in debt. And that debt is growing because of interest and everything else at $1 trillion every 100 days. So the organization called the United States government has a problem of too many people,
right,
and too many expenses,
right,
and a lot of mismanagement of the money coming in. So what they're going to try as an organization is get it back where it's being more efficient, more effective in what it's doing. Yeah. Now, it's not just the government. The reason we've related to this, the other topics, is middle managers are under threat in all organizations.
Right.
And the big element that is changing this and impacting this is AI, artificial intelligence, because it's replacing a lot of the mundane data analysis, report generations. And that's exactly what a huge percentage of people in the government do.
Right.
All they're doing is collecting data, passing that data on so that decisions can be made. And now that can be automated. So, and what was the statistic I read? Said, so business the developments of business over the last 300 years, because of AI, we're going to get an equivalent amount of transitions in business and organizations in the next 2 years.
Right.
So 2 years to do 300 years of transformation.
Okay. Yeah. And I do agree that there's a lot of extraneous people, and it depends on the organization. And I worked with the U.S. Army a couple of years ago, and I went actually to help a few of the different departments with productivity. Now, the government and the U.S. Army are, I mean, I use the word corporations, but they're huge, huge organizations that have boatloads of red tape and so many layers that it makes productivity hard. And one of the things that I got to talk to the people at the Army with, which, by the way, I respect the Army so much. I went down to I think it's called Fort Robert Wood, and saw the whole thing, and it was absolutely amazing. And they were so, they wanted to change things to be more efficient. And there's so much red tape because there are so many layers of, well, I have to go to the captain, then I have to go to the major, and then I have to go to, I don't even know what all the layers are. And it really stopped them from being as efficient and getting things done as they wanted to be.
Sure.
So I agree with the fact that, yeah, there is some efficiency that can be helped with the return to office and getting rid of the middle management.
Well, there are a couple of things that are going on. First of all, they talk about in terms of all those all those inefficiency of communicating from level to level. That's like the problem with consensus leadership, which is what we're going to talk about later.
Yeah.
Only that would be serial consensus. So I have to go to this person, get their consensus, the next person get their consensus, or as opposed to
too many cooks.
Right. As opposed to what I would call parallel consensus leadership, which is everybody's in a room trying to figure out and come to a consensus. And there's some liabilities with that. So
absolutely,
that's an organizational problem everywhere.
Right.
The other thing is, and this is a personal experience for me, so the Orange County Property Tax Group, we added some office space to this location. We maxed out by the codes of Huntington Beach. Well, they're now electronically connected to the county office. So the county office gets the information right away. It used to be paper. Well, a lot of that I can already, I went and talked to the guys, and they said I added 400 square feet. And I said, I can't. It would not be allowed by the codes, and this is all passed. And I'm having to go and fight them for it. They want more property tax. But what's happened is the guys there are trying to make themselves valuable. Mm. And that's the problem when you get in a large organization where people are doing basically stuff that's not very valuable. The human mind says, I need to make myself valuable. So they start creating problems and going against what the whole issue is. Yeah. And so if we can cut it down and get more lean, it's kind of like, people that procrastinate, man, they get more done in a short amount of time. You take an organization, keep it tight where everybody's busy and doing stuff and everybody's critical to it. They have a tendency they have to work more effectively.
Well, okay. And I just think that if people are coming back in, it would help if they gave a clear benefit of why, because otherwise there will be a lack of trust and people will leave, 5 to 10%. You said will probably leave.
That's the estimate, that 5 to 10% are going to take, and now they're not leaving, they're going to take early retirement. Right. Yeah, basically early retirement.
They're just paying them off not to come in. So right. And do you think that will help tighten it up, or do you think another reason is that they're trying to get more of their quote unquote people in?
No, I don't think they're trying to get more of their people. I literally think they're trying to reduce the head count, because it's one of the ways. I mean, it's one of the things organizations do.
So they're just trying to
if you can't
restructure.
generate more revenue, you have to cut expenses. Yeah. And so you cut by making, more people work hard. And we work for several organizations that cut their staff or their staff attrition. And now the people that are there are working, harder
and longer. Yeah.
And they probably should be given a raise.
Well, which can make sense, because if you give them a 20% raise because they're doing more work, you're still saving a lot of money with, you fired somebody making $250,000 a year and you're giving somebody a $50,000 raise. You're still, look at my math. You're still $200,000 savings.
Let's go back to your comment about giving them a reason for return to office. So I got a bit of a problem with that.
Why?
Because once again, if you act like a child and let the parent do everything for you, you're going to be treated like a child. And there's no reason somebody shouldn't do research. One of the, here are some reasons. What? Better engagement, better networking.
Okay, so I think that if someone is at home and getting work done, that they are being productive, I think that I don't see any reason why they can't keep doing it. I don't think it's about return to office. I think it's about finding which positions are doing the most good and cutting the ones that there's no reason to, what are you doing that if I put AI in, I don't need you anymore.
Well, okay, and this is where politics comes in, because what is good in the government? For example, the Department of Education, they haven't done much for education, K-12.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a great start. It got people literate. They were taught remotely, so they'd be valuable workers,
Okay.
which is the whole premise for, public education.
Right.
It hasn't changed all that much. People are putting in new techniques. Teachers are trying new stuff. They're having experience. They're connecting with individuals. For the main structure, though, it hasn't done much. So is the Department of Education valuable? It hasn't proved itself. Department of Housing, urban housing and urban development, hasn't done a lot. It was supposed to help give people a leg up. It was supposed to help people get a break. It was supposed to help people that hadn't been able to own a home to get a home. All these things are done, and it's supposed to manage properties and government real estate that's being done for people that are going through a hard time.
Well, I don't think all organizations that make changes have to. I'm not disagreeing with you, because it's like sometimes people come into your life for, what is it, a reason, a season, or whatever the heck it is. So sometimes you may need to have a group that helps makes things better. Okay, it's better. Bye. You're not, there's a rate of return that hits the top, and then you don't get anything from it. So do you need them anymore?
So a lot of, and this is what current administration is saying, is a lot of these functions that were put together had a purpose at one time. That purpose is no longer valid. They're not doing anything useful. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
So, and maybe they'll do that. And the same for businesses. For example, I do a lot of sales training. So should the company invest in the salespeople and sales training to do that? That's a choice to make an investment. If it gives them a leg up and they can sell more, great. If it doesn't, they don't. Most companies, though, instead of focusing on the revenue side, focus on cutting the expense side, because it seems to be a easier and more immediately gratifying decision.
Which will most probably hamstring them in the future.
Well, it does. It does. And it's why, again, they get in trouble with those things. So return to office, better work-life separator, less loneliness, and people are alone.
Sometimes.
And a sense of belonging. A sense
Well, of course,
being part of something.
the energy is always different when you are in the office versus when you are at home. And that's some of the things that I've been working with in terms of, play programs, because especially during the pandemic, when everyone was siloed, there was a way to get people together online to make them have that connection. And it's never the same as when you are face to face. You and I do both in person, and when I can't come down, we have to do it remotely.
Sure.
We've known each other for a while, so there is a definite comfort level, and the energy's still different when we're in face-to-face.
Oh, it's absolutely different, except energy,
I can hit you when I'm...
Yeah, exactly. Energy, though, that gets into, okay, so there's more energy. Does that make it more effective? Does that make it better?
I definitely does.
It's hard. Well, you and I would agree on that. The trouble is if you're in the accounting mode, you're in the financial mode, they don't want to deal with that stuff, and they're terrible at dealing with it.
Well, yes, there is. I think you do have to account for what department it is and what the personalities are like. Can they get as much done in the office or at home? Does it make a big difference? What are the resources that they have while they're at home versus in the office? So there's a lot of things to account for with that.
So here's my summary of where we are.
What is your summary, Jeffrey?
People don't like being told what to do. I fully understand that.
I hate that. Yes, don't tell me.
There is a cost to having to return to work, because you don't have as much freedom. You can't get stuff done. You have a literal cost.
You have to put pants on.
Yeah, well, it costs you in travel. It costs you in travel time.
Yes.
Time away from the family. It costs you for babysitting, pet care, things like that. So people just need to be adults and to take the passive aggressive mode or take the victim mode and say, oh, this is awful, this is terrible. It's not going to help the situation.
Yeah.
And so people should be very conscious of their choices. If the employers can help them be conscious of their choices so that they make a choice that fits them and what's going on. At the same token, and by the same token, choices are going to be made to eliminate people that might have wanted to stay, except it just didn't. The decision to discontinue it prevailed.
Okay, yeah, those are very good points, and I am of the mindset to say, okay, let's try this and see if it actually works. We all are so divisive, or that won't work. This, depending on what side of the aisle you are, and it's like, all right, let's see what happens. Let's go in with that spirit of curiosity. They may have a point. They may be totally off base. If we want to prove them wrong, then come in, do
Who's
your
them?
work. Well, I'm just saying, people who don't want to come back, who are resentful, they should still give it a chance and see if it actually works. And if you can do your work and it's not that much different, just go with it.
I'm telling you, look, decisions have to be made on this. It's not a let's try it and see how. That's not the way things work.
How do you know?
They're going to cut positions. Once they're cut, the idea, if you leave it open, they come back. What are you going to do? Keep those people on hold for 3 months at their home?
No.
Or 6 months?
What I'm saying is, once those people leave who don't want to go back into
Right.
the office leave, the people who are left, it's going to be really easy to see if it works for them, for the employees and or the government.
Yeah, I just see it as a much harder decision than that. I mean, the decision's going to be made. They're going to decide to do it. Here's the target. We've got to get out of this
The $1 trillion. Yeah, and like I said, if all of his wealthy tech friends donated $1 trillion each, we would be out of debt in like a week.
Right. Okay. Very good. So
They're acquiescing to everything else Trump wants. Why not this?
right. So if you earn money and you build a company out of scratch, which is the American dream, that I can build a company and become rich.
How
and
much
do
money do you
something,
need?
It's not for us to decide. That's the way it goes. So if they want to donate the money, if they want to do different things, it's up to them. But I wouldn't expect it. All right.
That's it for us. I'm drinking tea. It's cold here. I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler.
And this has been Biz-Souls. If you have an opinion about return to office, let us know. Write it in the comments and we'll talk about it.
Talk.
Okay. And if you like what we're doing, if you have any other ideas, let us know also and we'll talk about them.
All right.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell all your friends. That's it for us. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Biz-Souls podcast with your hosts, Rona Lewis and Jeffrey Hansler. Did you have fun? Subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Talk to you next week.